Yeah.
We're live. Look, we look so tropical. How do you know when people are like on? We're telling your followers. Oh, hi, yay. I guess we'll just wait for a few people to join us. Can I have the water, please? Thank you. Have you had anything today?
No, I haven't had any water yet.
Are you dry fast?
I think so. I don't know.
So. I feel like it's easier for you to fast, but then like, because you always start in a dry fast, and then you're like, I guess I'll have some water now.
Yeah.
So then it feels like, to you, it feels like food, I think. You're like, oh, I'm breaking fast, and it's water.
Alright, let me just quickly do a screenshot.
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you're live.
Hi from Germany. Should I do that? Should I copy you?
Why was I looking down
Hi,
at my
Hannah.
screenshot?
We're just waiting for a few more people to join, and then we will start. Yeah, the weather's really nice. It's like 80-something over here. Always. Blue skies, palm trees. Trying to rub it off on Coop, see if he just wants to stay. Maybe we'll win him over one day. It's peaceful. There's been so many animals too. There's like butterflies and lizards, and we've seen blue jays and cardinals and owls and hawks, and there's white ibis and cranes and what else?
Armadillos.
Armadillos. There was a raccoon in the backyard the other day. It was huge too. But for us, it's like pretty standard. Coop, on the other hand, is like, why are there so many animals here? Normal though. For us. Are you done?
Yeah, go on.
I guess we will get started. So, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. We just wanted to do a live to talk about like what we've been going through and how it has been for us. And I guess I'll jump right into it. If we find that there's like more we want to talk about, or if we want to get deeper into a subject, then we should probably utilize our YouTube Break Fresh and like make a video and post about it properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that being said, so basically all of this happened just last week. So today's Monday. This started last Thursday. I went to the bathroom about midnight. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with my posts. I've been posting on my page about like what has been happening. Went to the bathroom about midnight, and it was kind of like a little bit orange-ish when I wiped, and I was like, that's weird, but I'll sleep on it. Friday comes around, and it turned to red blood. Nothing heavy, no clotting, nothing crazy. It was red. So I was like, you know, this isn't normal, but at the same time, it's not normal, because I know even with my daughter, I spotted a little bit when I was pregnant with her, but I couldn't remember for the life of me. And I said that to you too. I was like, I don't know how many weeks I was, or how much blood it was, or what color it was. Like I wasn't paying attention to those things. So monitored it. Saturday we wake up and we had a nice day planned where we live. We're about an hour drive from vegan food, so we were like, you know, we've been home so long, like we'll just drive the hour to literally pick up food and then come back home and eat it. We were like, whatever, it'll be nice for us. So we stuck to that plan, but I didn't have an appetite that day. I just wasn't hungry at all. I just could only think about I'm bleeding and it's not normal. So we made the decision that night to go to the emergency room, not because miscarriage is an emergency and not because I felt that it was an emergency. I just, for myself, I needed and I wanted confirmation that this is what I thought it was. I didn't want to be pessimistic. I wanted to hope for the best. I wanted the baby to be okay, but I also didn't want to be naive. I wanted to get it checked out. So we go to the hospital Saturday. Everybody was really, really nice, actually, even with this whole virus going on. Like, they were super nice. We had masks. We were separated, like, healthy people from sick people, how they had the waiting room. But actually, Coop quite like that, and probably hospitals should be like that anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were at the hospital for maybe about 2 hours. They took an ultrasound. You guys know how I feel about ultrasounds. Ultrasounds work because what they do is they use radiation and sound waves to bounce vibrations off of the baby, and those vibrations are what form the picture of the baby for us to see. So we are very much against that. It alters the DNA, it heats up the insides of the body, and it's unnecessary unless there's an emergency. Again, miscarriage isn't always an emergency, but I wanted that confirmation. That was for me, my personal choice. So we did allow them to do a scan, and when the doctor came back in, they were like, okay, well, there is a fetus there, but we can't find the heartbeat. which is normal because you're measuring about 6 weeks, and usually, and it's not all the time that you can find a heartbeat when you're 6 weeks. So it was right then, I think, that we knew that the baby was gone, because our calculations were right. We obviously have been separated, and we are separated a lot of the time if I'm in Florida and he's in London, and so we know when we conceived. So when they said the baby was measuring 6 weeks, that was it for us.
Yeah, because prior to that we was in Brazil, so we would have conceived in Brazil.
Yeah. So they told us, they were like, well, come back Monday, follow up, let us measure your HCG levels, which are your like pregnancy hormones, and they're supposed to double within 48 hours. So they were like, if it increases, you know that there's a viable pregnancy. If it decreases, you know that the pregnancy is lost. So we saw no harm in following up. Why not? So we left Saturday, and Saturday for me was the hardest night. I don't know about for you, but when the doctor left the room, the emergency room on Saturday, I sort of just like leaned over. I don't think I cried, but I think I was like on the verge of crying. I just felt really sad, and I remember looking at Coop and I was just like, why me? Like, why does this have to happen? What is wrong with me? Why is this going on? Like, is this related to my bleeding that I was dealing with, since the summer? Like, what is this? What's happening? But I also don't think that I dwelled on it for too long. I don't think.
No, it was basically like, let's just wait and just see what happens on Monday when we come back to 48 hours later. Because I think her pregnancy hormone levels was on 7,000 plus. So we was expecting to see it reach to about 14,000 after 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember just saying, look, like, this is life. We go through these things. Whether we look at it as good or bad, it's still a lesson. And some lessons are good to have, because then you're better able to teach others.
Yeah, that's what he said. And on one hand, that made me, I was like, yeah, I sort of like accepted my role in this, to be able to help other people. But on the other hand, I was like, that's not what I want to hear right now. Like, why do I have to be the teacher? I don't want to be the teacher. I want to have my baby. So we came home, and that was the saddest night for me. So we came home, and we had our food that we picked up was this raw food that we got. And I entered the house, and I just went straight to the room. I put a dim light on, and I just went to bed. Like, I put my pajamas on. I didn't want to talk to anybody. My mom was trying to find out what happened. And I was just like not really wanting to talk. It sort of just took some time. Washed my hands, washed my face, and I just went to the bed. I was like, Coop, can you bring me my food? And then my daughter came in the room, and that really lightened the mood, because she was just like giving hugs and kisses and talking about, where were you and stuff. But yeah, I was just like sad, and I was just touching my belly, but I didn't want to look at my belly, and trying to hold on to a little bit of hope, but at the same time knowing that the baby was gone. How did you feel on Saturday?
Do you know what? I just kept myself on one plane. I just thought, I don't want to hope too much for the good and be disappointed, and I don't want to think too much on the bad if that's not the case.
Yeah.
So let the conversation on Monday happen, or 2 days later happen, before I have any type of emotions towards it. Plus, I don't want to show any type of emotions, whether it's too much or too little around you, because you're at a sensitive state. You're quite fragile at that moment.
Yeah.
So it was good to just be on that base.
Yeah. So, and I think that, I saw that in him. I saw that like with him. He was just trying to like feel his emotions, but at the same time not show them too much, because even though I think in the case of a loss, in the case of a miscarriage, it affects both parents, it's still, and this is just my personal belief, so don't, climb down my back, but it can feel like it affects the mom more, because the mom is the one carrying the life. And so when you find out that you have a baby in your belly, you're just like, everybody stay away from me, this is my baby, and you become very protective. And I think fathers are like that too, but they're not the ones feeling the baby and feeling so connected to the baby. So it's a different kind of loss, I think, for a father and for a mother.
Yeah.
So Sunday was a chill one. Monday we go back to the hospital. We didn't like jump out of bed and run there because we didn't know if we needed to wait a full 48 hours, but I think we went like around 12 or 12-ish.
Yes, got there about 12. Just short of 48 hours.
Yeah, so we got there about 12, and we went to the ER. We told them we just needed to get my blood levels tested, and it was all really fast. Again, we had a really good experience at the hospital. Very clean, very safe. Everybody was really, really nice. Monday, I feel like, turned into a blessing in disguise because I was finally able to see a gynecologist, which, if you guys have been keeping up, I have been struggling with bleeding profusely since last June. Literally for 6 to 8 weeks at a time, it just wouldn't stop. And that went on June, July, August, September, October, November, December, until the end of December / like first week of January is when it finally stopped, I guess for good. I mean, I just haven't bled heavily since then. So we had been seeing a doctor in London who we were just trying to get answers from. Do I have PCOS? Do I have endometriosis? Is there a hormonal imbalance? What is going on with me? And this doctor was no help at all, to the point where legitimately Coop had to come to the doctor with me to challenge his science so that they could speak science together. Yeah. Because I don't understand science like Coop does, and this doctor was buoying me off and pissing me off because I was like, he told me I'm going to say this wrong because the doctor on Monday told me I said it wrong. Do you remember how to say it? Menageria?
Yeah, that's
Menagera. I'm saying it wrong. All that means is that you have heavy bleeding. That is literally all that means. And he was like, this is what you have. And I was like, well, no shit. Are you seriously giving me? Is that the diagnosis that you're giving me? So Coop had come with me, and we had really pressured him to check my hormone levels. And he was like, why? And we were like, because if your hormones are out of balance, that could lead to heavy bleeding. Why do we have to explain this? But he was really trying to pin me with endometriosis or PCOS, but he couldn't do it because I didn't meet the other symptoms. I didn't have high testosterone. I didn't have hair growing sort of all over my body. I didn't have my fluctuating weight. I didn't have mood swings. I didn't have cystic ovaries because I had a scan back in October. And so from then, I had been trying to see a gynecologist, but of course, this is public health care, and the soonest appointment that I was able to get was actually in February. I think it was February 4th, which doesn't help. I was like, I understand that you have to prioritize, situations that are happening when you're using public health care, but I feel like this is an emergency because if I can't stop bleeding, the doctor's over here trying to scare me, saying you're going to need a blood transfusion, you need iron, you're going to pass out, all these horrible things are going to happen to you. I feel like then it's an emergency because if I can't stop bleeding, then I'm going to die, right? Because that's what you're telling me. So, gynecologist appointment in February, I knew I wasn't going to make because I knew I'd be in Florida. I said, whatever, I'll figure it out later. So, backtrack, or fast forward. Monday's appointment was actually a blessing in disguise because a gynecologist, Dr. Washington, came in to speak to us, and she was amazing, I think. Yeah, she was really nice, really informative, and she really took our time with us to answer our questions. And so since I had her there, I was like, since you're here, I know you're not my gynecologist. I know you have limited medical history from me, but there was an ultrasound done on my womb. Does my uterus look healthy? Does it look normal? And she said, yes. I said, do I have cysts on my ovaries? Do my ovaries look healthy? She said, no cysts, it looks healthy. I said, given the different things that we had been talking about, is my thyroid okay? She said, given the limited information you've given me, yeah, your thyroid's fine. Because again, I don't have any other symptoms. It's just the bleeding, which again, the last time that happened was the beginning of January. So I know Hannah up there somewhere, you asked, did they say the cause of the miscarriage? And I asked her, I said, why does this happen? And the answer that she gave me was that miscarriages are so common that doctors don't even look into the cause of the first miscarriage that a woman has, right? Yeah. She said, go ahead.
She said even on the second miscarriage, they're like, okay, but typically if there's 3 miscarriages, that's when they really want to look into everything that's happening to the woman.
So a woman would have to, a healthy woman would have to have 3 miscarriages before a doctor would look into why this woman is having miscarriages. So when I asked her why I had this miscarriage, she said it could be anything. She was like, basically, but I wouldn't worry about it because you have had a healthy baby before and a healthy pregnancy, so I don't see why you can't conceive again. I did ask her, you know, we sort of pressed her more. We said, they didn't check my progesterone, right? Levels in the blood work?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, so she didn't have, like, my hormone levels. But we basically asked her, given, again, this limited information we've given you with my profuse bleeding for all these months and my lack of other symptoms, and now with this miscarriage, in your professional opinion, are my hormones out of balance, and could this have been the cause of this miscarriage? And she said...
Her answer was, it's because of how we are already and how healthy we are. We've had a successful, healthy pregnancy and childbirth prior to this incident. There is more likely to be a defect in one of our chromosomes, which our body, which is way more intelligent than we are, would have picked up on this and made an executive decision whether it should terminate the pregnancy or not, which it did do. To go back a little bit, prior to that, when Dr. Washington actually came in to speak to us, she read out our Lacey's pregnancy hormones and said that it had dropped by 2,000. So when it was 7,000 2 days ago, it had dropped down to 5,000, which means that it was a miscarriage that was going through. You didn't actually get a chance to say that.
Sorry. So she did confirm it, and then she said, so yes, it is a miscarriage. And I don't think, when she said those words, it didn't, like, emotionally, it didn't have an effect on me because I think I was prepared for it from Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think same for Coop. We were just like, you know, we didn't want that to be the case, but also all signs sort of pointed that way. So she said, yes, it is a miscarriage. And that's when we started asking her all these questions. And yeah, so she did say that, yeah, there could be a link between the miscarriage and your hormones. And so we asked her about sort of what happens when women's hormones are out of balance and how you remedy that. And
I think the great thing about having her there at that time is that because there is very little people in the hospital at the moment, she actually had enough time to spend quality time with us to explain everything that we wanted, all the answers that we, for all the questions that we had.
Yeah, she wasn't making us rushed at all.
Which is typically practiced by all doctors because they're on a tight schedule. They can only give you a maximum of 10 minutes, and even that's a rush. So for her, she actually spent about just over an hour.
Yeah, at least.
Answering all of our questions, even going online and drawing up different hormone charts and charts that explain what the body goes through during pregnancy, so that we had a deeper understanding. More so, we had a deeper understanding, but we already knew majority of the answers, but it was just good.
It was nice to get confirmation from a gynecologist.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we know, there's a lot that we've studied and researched, especially since this started happening last June. There's a lot we've been doing, there's a lot of actions we've been taking, and you guys can go through my Healing Through Bleeding hashtag on my page to learn more about this if you don't know. But it was nice to finally hear from a qualified gynecologist the answers that we thought we had all along, the answers that we knew we had all along. That for us was sort of confirmation that we're on the right track, we're doing the right thing, and it's going to be okay. So personally for me, I left the hospital on a high note. I felt really informed. I felt like I've been doing the right things. Obviously I asked her about what to expect. Obviously I've never had a miscarriage before, so I was like, how does this happen? And at the end of the day, she's still a doctor, right? So right away she was like, well, I recommend a DNC. And a DNC is a dilation and cutterage, where they put you under anesthesia and they dilate you and they surgically remove the baby. And she was like, yeah, we can do it right now. You'll be in and out. You'll go home today. She made it seem so like nonchalant.
Yeah.
Like, just have this anesthesia and, you know, have this surgery. And obviously we were like, no. That was crazy to us. Not because she like pushed it or anything, but just because we were like, no, the baby, if a miscarriage is what's happening, if your body is sort of pushing, if your baby has died, your body knows how to dispose of it. Your body knows what to do with this sort of extra mass that's in my womb. And she was like, I don't think she was intentionally trying to fill us with fear, but she was like, well, your blood levels are low. You're severely anemic, because I'm still working on rebuilding my blood after this past year. You're severely anemic, and if you go home, you do run the risk that you are going to pass out. You might need a blood transfusion. You'll faint at home. You'll have to come back here and get a D&C anyway.
And then the secondary option is?
And the secondary option, she was like, but if you do decide to go home and do it yourself, well, here's medication. And I think one is called Cytosec. I think it's called Cytosec, and you apply it vaginally, and it basically induces the miscarriage. So it brings on like the cramping and contractions, I guess, that you would have to dislodge the baby from your womb. And again, I wouldn't say she was pushy, but she was like, well, you do definitely need this, because that way you know when the miscarriage starts and you know when it ends. And she was like, but also here, she gave me a script for Percocet and a script for Motrin. She was like, because you're going to experience some really, really intense pain, some horrible abdominal cramping, and you're going to definitely want this medicine. And I was like, well, is it anything like having a baby at full term? And she sort of smiled, and she was like, well, I mean, no, because it's not a full-size baby. And I was like, well, then I think I've got this stock, because I've had a baby at home by myself, unmedicated, and she was full term. So with that, she just like gave us the script. She was like, we'll take this anyway. And I was like, fine, I mean, I'll take it. I'm not going to fight with somebody who's never going to understand how we think. And we went home, and that was Monday, and we just were sort of waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. How did you feel when you was leaving the hospital?
Honestly, I do feel like I left on a high note, honestly, because I had finally seen a gynecologist who I've been wanting to see, and I finally heard from somebody else, somebody who can interpret scans, that your
somebody else, because I had the answers.
Yeah, but you didn't have a scan, and you can't read a scan.
Because
it's not like about the hormones. The hormones, like, let's say we know those are out of balance, but I wanted a gynecologist to read an ultrasound and look at my uterus and look at my ovaries and say they're totally normal and they're totally healthy.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with your insides, because we know what's going on in the outside, and we figured what was going on with the hormones, but I needed confirmation that my uterus and ovaries were fine. I knew they were, but I needed it.
I've got the app on my phone. I could have done the scan myself.
There's an app for that.
There's an app.
You should make that app. I bet you there is an app for that. They have fetal heart monitoring as an app, which is crazy. Please don't download an app that monitors your baby's heartbeat, because that still uses radiation, and you put it directly on your womb, so it's not the one. So yeah, I left on a high note. How were you? Because obviously this is the same day we found out for sure that the baby was gone.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was at total ease. I was at total ease the moment that the doctor said the body finds that the body is, if there's a defect in the chromosome, then either one of our chromosomes, then the body would make the choice of terminating the pregnancy. And I know how intelligent the body is. That's like my thing. As soon as I heard it just clicked straight away, and I was just like, yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm never gonna bother debating with that anymore. I'm just gonna run with that, and that put me at ease.
Yeah, I think it took a huge weight off both of our shoulders, but specifically for him, I think when the doctor said those words, that like the body is always going to be in charge and make an executive decision. So if the body determined that the baby wasn't gonna be a healthy baby in the world, so then the body would say no, moving on to the next one. And again, because we understand how intelligent the body is, we were like, that makes sense. Science makes sense to us. Yeah, but so I think we both left, and then so we are both the kind of people who like to have a plan of action. We're not the kind of people who like to be victimized, and we don't like to sort of wallow in our sorrows. Take a day, take a week, take as much time as you need, but then like, let's get to it and let's solve what the issue is. So as soon as we left, when we knew that was happening, our wheels just started turning, and we said, what is going to be my role in healing my body so that we can have another baby? And we'll get there in a minute. So that was Monday. Tuesday is when the natural abortion of the baby, because your body aborts the baby.
Again, that was something that you're about to talk about right now.
The miscarriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
So that happened Tuesday. Tuesday started like a normal day. Everything's fine. If I should backtrack for a minute, the bleeding never got like crazy heavy. I didn't know what to expect because Google says you like profusely bleed, and the doctor was like, you're going to bleed out. And severe cramping. And so like the bleeding from Thursday to Monday wasn't really that heavy. And it's not just because I've been bleeding for a year. It's because I think now at this point I'm very used to monitoring my flow and the color and how often, and it really wasn't a lot. Like I was wearing just a panty liner for a while, and then I switched to a pad, but I think it was just like a regular pad. I've been using So Tuesday, it was about 1 o'clock that I started getting cramping. I think earlier in the day it was sort of small. Wasn't I saying something? Like earlier in the day I was like, my stomach is making movements.
Yeah.
I was just, and I think even from Monday I was like, my stomach it feels different. And I couldn't place it because, again, I didn't know what to expect. I've never had a miscarriage. But I was just like, something feels like wheels are turning inside my stomach. And so Tuesday about 1 o'clock I start getting this cramping. And just the way the doctor described it, just the way Google described it, it felt like really, really bad period cramps. It felt very intense. It was specifically like down in my lower abdomen right here. I posted a video today, like while I was going through it, so you can look at it if you want to. But specifically it was right there. But the pressure navigated, I guess, like transcended across like my sides here, which is where you would have your contractions in childbirth. But it also, I could feel it in my rectum, like this pressure, fiery, I don't know, sort of pain that sort of made you like clench up. I was just like, what is that grabbing me? And I could feel it a little bit in my vaginal canal as well. So that went on for about 3 or 4 hours, in which I was sitting for a while, leaned back because if I was sitting straight, the pressure was hurting. And then I finally got up and I was just walking around and rubbing my back and just breathing. I mean, that's all you can do. I was just like just breathing through it. And then I got an urge to go to the bathroom. I had to pee, and I peed, and all of a sudden I heard this just fall into the toilet, and I had an inkling that would have been the baby. Motorcycles are very loud. Who's that motorcycle? Is it like that? Is it a smaller one? Maybe not. I'll just get closer. So yeah, I heard like a big plop, and I was just like, I thought that may have been the baby. But in the toilet, the first thing obviously I did, even when I was peeing, I was sort of looking between my legs and sort of like hovering, standing up. But I couldn't see anything because it was filled with pee and blood everywhere. And you know, if something is dense, it's also going to sink in water. So there was nothing I could do. So I flushed, and I left the bathroom, and immediately I felt better. Immediately. And I remember Dr. Washington saying that. I was like, how do you know when it's over? And she's like, right away you'll feel better. And literally right away, as soon as I left the bathroom, I was like, oh my gosh, like all that pressure that I was feeling, all that cramping that I was feeling is gone. And I walked around, I was sort of like stretching my hips and like massaging my back, and I was like, I think that it's over, but also I don't know, so I guess we'll wait and see. If you guys can't hear me, just let me know. I think I'm closer and louder, and I wish the motorcycle would leave, but he's lighting a cigar. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So yeah, I just started walking around, and I felt better, and I didn't know if the cramping would come back at all, and it's been almost a week now, because it would have been last Tuesday. Personally think motorcycles are so obnoxious, and I can't stand them.
No, those ones.
No, all of them. They're so loud. I do not like motorcycles. He likes motorcycles. Anyway. So yeah, right away I felt better. Right away. And I just didn't know if the cramping would come back or anything, or if I'd like be bleeding. I didn't know what to expect, but I felt so much better. And One weird thing that I noticed, though, was after that, so like later on Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, my stomach got huge. Huge, bigger than it was before we knew that we were having a miscarriage. Gigantic. I don't know if I was telling Coop, I don't know if it's like gases from the passing of the baby, or I don't know. It couldn't have been amniotic fluid, because amniotic fluid is like with the baby, which I think all came out, together. So I didn't know what it was, but my stomach was gigantic. It was so bloated, and I took pictures, and I'll post those on my page. And I was very tender for a few days, like just walking kind of slow, and then I think it was on a few days later, like maybe Friday or Saturday, super tender. I woke up, I was telling Coop, I felt like I got hit by a car. My whole, like, my right here, my lower abs, and then, like, what's this called?
Obliques.
My obliques were so, like, even if I just touched them with my finger, I was like, oh, that hurts. I have no idea what that was, but my body was super tender. Even now, like, I don't know if you guys saw stories yesterday, but I was dancing around having a good time yesterday morning. After that, I was beat. Like, I shouldn't have moved so much. And then yesterday we went to, just to the grocery store to get some things, and we went to get some really banging vegan ice cream. And my daughter, like, really likes it. And even then, when I got home, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Like, I definitely did too much. So, taking time to just relax, to kick back, to chill, to let everything sort of penetrate, I think is really important, because it is a process, even though it started last week, like, and the actual baby came out last week. My body still has to heal, which brings us to our next point, which is what now? What do we do now?
What are we doing right now? We're fasting. I think that's the next plan. The next plan is to do a cleanse, do a full cleanse, water fast to help cleanse the body, help the body to eliminate and remove anything that's still inside of the body, but also to bring total homeostasis to the body and bring alignment to our hormones, and then come out of the water fast and start a whole new diet where we're just inducing lots of vitamins and minerals into the body. That's the next step.
So we had decided from the day that we knew we were miscarrying that the obvious next step for us was a water fast, and that's because a lot of people say that, okay, well, you can have a miscarriage at home, but what if tissue gets stuck? Because they say that you can go into shock and you would bleed out and stuff. First of all, you would still be, like, heavily bleeding, so you'd know that there's tissue stuck. And second of all, you'd also have cramping. So when people ask those questions, they don't make sense, because there are always symptoms that tell you what's going on. But for us, we were like, to guarantee that my uterus is cleansed, we have to do a water fast, right? Because the body is self-healing if you give it the opportunity to be self-healing. And I think you all know Coop has fasted how many days at this point, or hours? Is that how you calculate it?
No, I could calculate by days now, but I'm almost at 1 year. I'm only, like, literally, I think after I've done this fast, I've done a whole year.
Obviously not a whole year
so
straight.
In 3 years' time, in 3 years, I've almost done a whole year's worth of water fasting.
So, yeah.
And I think from the moment that we walked out of the hospital, the plan was, we was walking towards the car, and we was like, okay, you know what we have to do, right? And Lace's just like, yeah, we just need to go for a full detox and cleanse. I was like, exactly that. What we'll do is we're going to eat as clean as possible all the way up until Sunday, and then starting Monday, we start a water fast, and then we will do that for 7. I told Lacey 7 days, we're doing 10, 14.
Did you just hear him say 14? He's wild.
Anyway, we're going to do about 10 days.
I signed up for 7, and I'll take it from there.
When we get to 7, we'll do 7 more.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, we're going to, because last year what she had was issues with our hormones, and her progesterone levels were super low and the estrogen levels were super high, which is, estrogen, if you don't know, is a cell proliferator. So that causes the lining of her uterus to become really thick with blood, and then she'll just continue bleeding. And
so if you have too much estrogen, it was a sign to us that that's why I kept bleeding, because my body kept building up that uterine lining, which it then had to shed.
Yeah, and progesterone levels normally help to shed the lining and then bring it to total balance. So basically what you do is you have progesterone and estrogen that goes up in a graph like this. So progesterone be up here and estrogen be down here. And then during in the middle of your cycle month, your progesterone will go down, your estrogen will stay up. And then as it reaches to the end, your estrogen comes down and your progesterone comes up. So your progesterone is typically the hormone which operates or dominates your estrogen levels, your testosterone levels, and your adrenal hormones. And when your progesterone levels are down, that means everything else can run amok. That's why it's so easy to end up with fibroids or endometriosis or polycystic ovarian cysts. These things can happen really quickly when your progesterone levels are down. So for us, it was, in my head, I was like, okay, before we even think about trying again, we need to not only cleanse the uterus and the whole body, but we also need to bring all of our hormones back into balance.
Because that's been the problem since last year. And again, if you guys haven't been keeping up, or if you don't know, you can check the hashtag Healing Through Bleeding, where I've documented the different steps I've taken to decrease estrogen, increase progesterone, and overall balance my hormones. So we won't answer that here. Boost my iron. It's all under that hashtag, so you can search it.
So right now, the goal is to literally, or as of that day, the goal was to literally go through a cleanse, and I was just like, of course, I'm going to do the fast with you. So I didn't actually do the fast with my water fast group, which I'm currently running at the moment. I held off until Sunday so that I can do the water fast in support with my wife, and we can both do it together. And
I don't know if I'm scared to have him fasting with me or motivated.
Actually, this would be the perfect time for me to fast at first, because whenever I fast, all she wants to do is sit in front of me with a plate of food, talking about food and the food that she's eating.
All my friends know I always talk about food. I just like cooking and creating food and eating it.
So anyway, that's what we're doing now. So that was the plan of action the moment we walked out of the hospital. So we already had our minds set on a new goal.
And that was even before, we didn't even discuss it. That's just automatically in both of our heads separately. We were like, water fast. And then obviously when we would have discussed it, then we were like, okay, like we're on the same page. Because again, to make sure that the uterus is expelled of anything that's there, we need to water fast. But then also to get my hormones right, we need to water fast. And just to get my body in check and give myself a break, because going through a miscarriage isn't easy. Obviously emotionally, but physically, there's a lot going on. So when you fast, you're giving your body a break from having to digest, because digestion is a job. And so if you take that job away from your body, our bodies are self-healing, and our bodies know what to do to fix the problem, but we keep our bodies so busy with having to digest by eating 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, eating and eating and eating and eating, that our bodies cannot heal whatever the issue is.
And as if you don't know, water fasting is an emotional cleanser too. So it helps to bring suppressed emotions on a cellular level up to the surface so that it could be released, so that you're not harboring onto any emotions, or harboring onto any emotions that you may have suppressed subconsciously without realizing it. What I do want to bring up though is, again, how intelligent the body is, because when we was last together in Brazil, which made us come to the conclusion that our child was probably about 11 and a half weeks. When they did the measurement, they said that the baby was about 6.5 weeks, which means that the time that we found out we was pregnant, the body had already terminated the pregnancy. But because our hormone levels are still really high, it still showed up on the pregnancy stick that we were pregnant. So we went off with that, and we was very proud and happy and excited that we was about to give birth to another baby. I
was going to give birth, not you.
Me as well.
Women just hear him. He said we're going to give birth to a baby. I say like we're pregnant because like you go through the pregnancy too, but we don't give birth. I give birth. That's me.
Man's in there.
Did you just really say that? I don't have time for you. You don't give birth. You're a man.
For us, for us.
You look knee slapper.
But yeah, so it's funny is because the moment that the pregnancy or the miscarriage was confirmed, the moment Lacine let go, her body was able to finally let go. So the following day, her body went through the termination of aborting the baby.
Yeah.
Whereas,
amazing, actually.
Because I was thinking, well, how long is this actually going to take?
Yeah, because we didn't know.
We're the only ones. We don't know. The thing is, this is another thing to kind of go off, but I'm bringing it back, is that we don't, people don't talk about their miscarriages. So there's no one that you can turn to just say straight away,
it's totally taboo. Completely.
What happened to you? And you kind of don't want to ask anybody else, is because you don't know how they feel emotionally about it and whether they even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So not only that, another thing that makes it difficult to find out from anybody else is who has done it naturally, who hasn't gone through an operation.
That was a whole other level, because even I didn't personally know anybody who had gone through a miscarriage, which now I do because people have opened up to because I've been talking about it. But even for the few amounts of miscarriage sort of narratives that I found, because when I started looking online, all it was telling me was how to get consolation and how to go through a grieving process. And I was like, okay, but to me that's a separate thing. I'm talking physical. Where are the studies? Where's the proof? Where is the writings? What can I read to learn about what's going to happen to my body, what the process is, what it's going to feel like when it's over? I couldn't find anything. Granted, there could be some books, but obviously if this is just happening to me, I wouldn't have that book. So I was turning to Google to find something, and I couldn't find it. And then when I did find something, I was finding things about DNC. Yeah, you go in, you get a DNC, they give you medicine, you go home. Okay, well, I've come home. I don't have medication. I'm not getting a DNC. I'm going to do this by myself. What should I expect? And there's nothing there because it is so taboo. And why? Why? I don't understand. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no blame. I don't understand why it's taboo, which is why I started talking about it to begin with, because it's sort of therapeutic for me to be able to share, what I'm going through, but at the same time, hopefully it helps other women too who might be going through the same thing to know what to expect, because it's one thing to have to accept the miscarriage, but then you have to be prepared for it. And how can you get prepared if no one's talking about it? Sorry, I cut you off. I got pissed off.
But see, I've lost where I was. Oh no, because I was talking about the intelligence of the body and also how much our mind can have an effect on how our body functions. If you want to think in poor health, then you would have poor health. If you think in good health. If you think in good health, then you would have good health alongside obviously the physical. But the moment that Llaila mind let go of the baby, it's like, well,
the body
there's no reason for me to hold on anymore. The body was able to let go, and the following day it happened, and it happened in, would you say, the most intense part of the determination was what, like 4 hours, 3.5 hours?
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 hours, but not even the most intense part. That's when all like the cramping was going on. That when my body was expelling the baby, it was about 3 or 4 hours, and then it was over.
Yeah, done. Instant relief. Right?
And granted, obviously, this is just my personal experience. It's different if a baby is older or bigger, and there's various factors. That's my experience. But as soon as the baby passed through at between 3 and 4 hours, it was done.
Yeah, and I think something that you said once on the way back from the hospital, we was discussing about how we're gonna talk to the people that we've spoken to about being pregnant, and Llaila was like, actually, I'm quite thankful that I've spoken to the people that I've spoken to prior to this happening, because we didn't wait for the standard 3 months before you should tell anybody that you're pregnant. We just told everybody the moment that we found out. And with that, she was like, actually, because I have a lot of friends, all the people that I know are my friends and family, and they would show me support during this time. And if I didn't tell anybody, if I wouldn't have told anybody, then I wouldn't have anybody to fall on to in support. It's because now you're taking this burden all by yourself. It's because you didn't tell anybody, and now you've had this miscarriage, and now for some people they feel ashamed to even bring it up and speak about it.
And that's what what happens to a lot of people. And I've had these personal stories. People are sending me that they've gone through miscarriages alone and felt very unsupported, which in actuality extends your grieving process because you're never able to process it because you're not talking about it. And so no, I absolutely do not regret telling any of my friends that I was pregnant, because they, in that moment, shared that joy with me. We were all happy. We were all like, oh, we're going to have another baby, and, our daughter's going to have a sister, and we were all so joyous. And then, a few weeks later, we actually were only pregnant, like knowingly pregnant, for 3 weeks. So in those 3 weeks, they were happy times where we were able to talk to our friends and sort of dream with our friends. And then when we found out that we lost the baby, I was able to share that with my friends too, not to place a burden on them, but so that they could help support me and lift me up and just give me words, and also so that I had an ear to talk to. Like I would hate to put myself in a position where, one of my friends calls me and I'm dodging their phone calls because they're just like, hey Lace, how are you doing? And I can't talk to them and tell them how I'm doing because they didn't know. Nah, I'm answering that phone call, or I'm not answering that phone call, because I did ignore a bunch of my friends who were calling me and saying, I don't want to talk right now. I'm going through a miscarriage. And that made it easier for me because now they know. And they were able to take a step back and give me that space without getting mad at me for not answering.
And I think that once we started taking those phone calls, what made it easier on the person on the receiving end is that we already had a plan of action. So we wasn't like, I'm not saying that, look, everybody has their own ways of dealing with the situation, but we're not like that. So the way that of us dealing with the situation, I think the best thing for us at the beginning was having all the information given to us by the doctor. She was able to fully explain to us a lot about pregnancy and miscarriage and what to expect.
Like from a science, medical perspective, I guess. And
I think most people, when they do get words from their doctor, they don't spend that time wanting to find out about. A lot of people don't want to find out about even their pregnancy or labour or childbirth. Never mind to find out what's actually going on during a miscarriage. And we were able to get all of that information from her so that so it was easier for us to make to come to terms with the situation, and also for us.
That's actually a really good point. Like, just that we were in a place where we did feel supported by each other, and I guess more so me, because again, it's a physical thing for me that I have to go through, but that I felt supported by my husband, by my family, by my friends who are family, to be able to say, this is what I'm going through, but I'm going to take a deep breath and spend this time with the doctor, asking her the questions that I need to know so that I'm prepared. Again, not victimizing myself, so that I can just stand up and be strong about it and deal with it, because at the end of the day, you can't change what's happening. I can't not have a miscarriage if the miscarriage has started.
Yeah, I think that was played a major role in.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't think about that.
In how we dealt with the situation. It's because a doctor would typically come into a room and say, well, I'm sorry guys, this is how it could have played out. She could have came into the room and said, I'm sorry guys, we've checked your pregnancy hormone levels, it's dropped by 2,000 because it was on 7,000, now you're on 5,000, which means that you actually gone through a miscarriage. And I'm sorry to give you this information and all of the soft talk, but then her next words, I would have been comforting her, being like, oh, and then the doctor would have said, well, the plan is either going through a DNC, which is going under, and then having an operation, having a baby removed from your womb, or you can take this medication and it will happen within the longest period of time it could possibly take, is 72 hours for your body to fully eliminate the baby. Or the third option would be to go natural, which I don't suggest you should do because it's very uncomfortable.
I don't even think she was going to give us that option.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And she would have said all of those things because that's what she did say to us anyway, because we were planning on doing it naturally. And then it would have been left up to us. She would have said, look, I'm going to leave you guys to think about it, have a talk amongst yourselves, and then I'll come back and then you tell me your decision. Yeah. That's what people are left with. And when you're left with that and not having a chance to really dive into the situation, understand the body, understand how the body works and what actually happened, then you're left with a lot of sorrow and you're left with a lot of blame. And I think that's where a lot of shame comes into it afterwards.
Okay, I see, yeah.
But we didn't go through that process. And we went the route that we typically go through whenever we speak to any doctor.
Questions, understanding, like, lay it on me.
And I think because of our high level of understanding about the human body as it stands, we're able to understand on a deeper level. So we're able to ask them questions which makes them really have to think. I mean, even one of the questions I asked, she was like, oh Lord, you're actually making me think about the times that
she did. She was like, you're taking me back to med school. Oh God, like, because no one, I forget what the question was, but because no one asked doctors questions, they're just like, you're a doctor, you know everything.
I was asking about pregnenolone. And
pregnenolone.
Yeah, pregnenolone.
Pregnenolone.
Which is the hormone that is from your cholesterol is produced. Pregnenolone. From pregnenolone you have progesterone. From progesterone you have estrogen, testosterone, and your adrenal hormones. But because I already know all of these things, I was asking her things about certain things that I've studied.
Bring him with me.
Certain things that I've studied but didn't make sense, and I didn't have a tutor there to be like, oh no, Coops, the reason is because da-da-da, and I just needed that dot to be connected. And then when I asked her, she was like, who's this guy?
You need to go to you need to be a doctor's apprentice or something with like skip med school and just like go straight to the doctor and go to work with them.
So I think that played a huge role in how we dealt with the situation, and I think people need to not be afraid to ask doctors questions. I feel like people are quite intimidated by doctors. Doctors are there to help you and to also serve a purpose to you, right?
They're there for you.
Yeah, so utilize their time. Sometimes it could be only 10 minutes, but have your questions ready if you need to. Lacey was just shooting questions off the top of her head. Like, boom, boom, boom.
It was like Spitfire because I've been waiting for
to months. The point where I was like tapping my feet on the floor.
Yeah, he was like, are you done? And I was like, nah, I'm not. Like, I've been waiting for almost a year to see a gynecologist. I have questions. I don't care if it's related or not related to the miscarriage. You're a gynecologist, right? I have questions.
If this live cuts off, I think what we'll do is jump on my live and then we'll continue on from there, because I want to go through some people's questions. Actually, that's up to you if you want to answer some questions.
No, I'm down. We just wanted to explain what the process has been like to you guys because no one talks about it. Emotionally, I'm feeling okay. Physically, I would say Saturday, I think, but definitely from yesterday, I started feeling so much better. Like, I can't even explain it. I just woke up feeling much better. Like, my body is less sore and my stomach isn't so bloated anymore. I feel a lot less heavy. So I definitely feel better, but also I am pushing myself too much. Like I said, even yesterday, all we did was go to the grocery store and go to get ice cream, and I came home absolutely knackered. So I have to remind myself to still take it slow. It's only been a week, like, relax. as he said, we started the water fast today. So far, I feel okay. It's, what is it, almost 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost 4 o'clock, and so far I feel okay. But to be fair, since the baby passed through on Tuesday, I think I've been saying Monday.
Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, yeah. It was Tuesday the baby passed through. Since then, I've been eating just because I am weak and given to addictions. Really. I just like to snack on things. I have this oral fixation where I just want to be snacking. And, but actually anytime I've eaten anything other than when I've been eating like watermelon, it's been so good.
Mm-hmm.
Water has been fine. That's really it. Maybe coconut water, but anytime I've eaten anything heavier, quinoa, I had ackee, different things, I have felt immediately heavy, immediately sick. And I've sort of forced myself to finish the food because I'm like, no, but I want to finish my food. But it didn't feel good last week at all, like at all, anytime I ate anything besides watermelon. So I wanted to, I'm at a place where it's not a matter of like, but do you want to do this water fast? It's like, I don't have a choice. It just is what it is. And I'm that kind of a person where it just has to happen. So I'm not going to dwell on it like, oh, but you know, can I do it? Am I capable of doing it? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be easy? Like, it just is what it is. That's just me. So I'm just in it. And I've had some water today, and I've had some ice cubes because that's water too, and I eat ice cubes anyway. And, you know, we'll just see how it goes. Like I said, it's 7 days minimum. He's saying 10 to 14. We'll see. Doesn't fasting also, like, can it reset your pituitary gland? And isn't your pituitary gland in charge of your hormones?
Yeah, it's part of your endocrine system. And your endocrine system is basically from your adrenals, your thyroid, your pituitary gland. Like, everything is interconnected. And when your body is going through a hormone balance, I just want there not to be a chance where we were so close to bringing it to a full homeostasis, but we're cutting it short. That's why I'm in my head, I'm like 7 or 10.
Oh yeah, 7.
You hang on to that number.
That's what I said.
Look, I have a question. How do you feel about the loss of the baby?
I'm at peace with it.
My whole fear, not fear, but I had a worry that we were so calm about the situation because we had come to terms with the situation as we was walking out of the hospital, is that once the baby passes through, that this abundance of emotions, this all of a sudden, this overwhelms her.
I thought that would happen too.
And but it didn't happen, so that's why I just asked that question just now.
Well, and I think for me in my experience here, I think one thing that has made it a bit easier is actually going through all of this bleeding the past year, because for me, when I started bleeding last Thursday, it was reminiscent of all the bleeding I've been doing last year.
Mm-hmm.
So all the pad changing, all the trips to the toilet, all the blood that I'm seeing. On one hand, it's because it's a miscarriage. On the other hand, I've been bleeding.
Yeah.
So it sort of made me less sensitive to what was happening, I think. I was just like, here we go again. I think that made it a lot easier for me because it wasn't, in my head, it wasn't like a miscarriage. It was just like, I'm bleeding again, even though it was a miscarriage, if that makes sense. But I honestly do feel emotionally okay. Like, I'm at peace with it. I'd rather not sit here and sort of bellyache about it. Like, I feel like we have an angel baby now, and a lot of people have asked, how do you know it was a him? When I told my daughter we were pregnant, I said, is it a boy or a girl? Is it a brother or a sister? And right away she said brother. And that's why I've been calling him a boy.
I mean, she was the one that said we were pregnant before.
Before we could have even had a chance to be pregnant in Brazil, she kept touching my belly and saying, baby, baby. So she told us that we were pregnant before we were pregnant.
Okay, question. What are some good...
Wait. Before questions, we should switch on to your life, because it's going to cut us off anyway. Isn't it?
Questions will be answered. All right, do you want to round that?
That's what I was doing, and then you cut me off.
Oh, so...
Yeah, so that's how we know he was a boy. And a lot of our friends that we told that we were pregnant, everyone was like, I feel the energy of a boy. So that's why I've been saying he. That's why I've been saying it was a boy. Maybe we'll name him at some point in the future.
What?
I said maybe we'll name him at some point in the future.
No, whatever.
Rude. So yeah.
No, I just feel like that's just hanging on again.
It's not hanging on to anything. There's an angel baby.
Okay.
Anyway.
I like angel baby.
Okay, no one's talking to you. So annoying. Look, we're going to get cut off in a minute and a half. So, yeah, so I feel good about it. You know, we have another baby. Our daughter understands that the baby's not in my belly anymore. I told him the baby was sick and he had to leave and he died. And I posted about that too. So you guys can just like read through my page. I started a hashtag Lacine's Angel Baby. And, you know, but she understands. And that's fine, and we're going to have another baby, and that's fine, and no matter what you believe, whether it's the next baby is this baby coming in a different life form or at a different time, or the baby, you know, chose not to be in this earth right now, or my body wasn't healthy, whatever the belief is, I'm calm with all of them. I just know that do this fast, get my pituitary gland sort of centered, get my body balanced and in homeostasis, and then we'll have a baby, and it'll be fine.
Cool.
So we're gonna, since we're getting kicked off now, we're gonna jump on his Instagram and we'll answer some of your questions. So just meet us there in a few minutes, okay?
Save this one.
Yeah. How do I do that?